What's up, guys? This is CSP, and today I'm back with another Messin with the Calcs video. I know it's been a while since I did this last one, but someone was interested in it, so I'm shooting out another one. So today I've got three more Pokemon. Last time I did one super random Pokemon, one more common Pokemon, and then one middle of the road Pokemon. Today I'm doing it somewhat similar. I've got a well-known but not used Pokemon, a really highly used Pokemon that I'm going to show a different set on, and then a completely unused Pokemon that you would never think of to use, similar to the Sunflora from last time. So let's get into it. So first of all, clearly you can see the first Pokemon I have on here is Charizard. Charizard has some cool things, obviously. I mean, everyone remembers Mega Charizard, right? Except Primal Groudon. He doesn't give a shit about Mega Charizard. Actually, majority of the primals don't really care. Weather's not really a thing for them. But anyway, but he does get solar power. And, he's got a pretty high just special attack as it is, so that's something we can work with pretty well. So first up, we're going to look up just a purely special Charizard with solar power and a life orb, and a special attack boosting nature, and then max special attack, and just for the sake of whatever, max speed. So originally when I wanted to look up at this, I wanted to see if you were to put HP water or hidden power water on Charizard, how it would do. Obviously it won't do anything against a regular Groudon in the sun. But if you were to bring in a Rayquaza or a Kyogre or even like a Golduck with air, to change the weather or disregard the weather. That hidden power water is pretty much all the time gonna knock out Primal Groudon. Hidden power water is not something you're generally gonna expect from a Charizard of all things. But if we look at it with generally Primal Groudon, in order to avoid getting one-shotted from the mirror match with Special Grid and Earth Power, they'll put in around 160 special defense, because that'll survive an Earth Power, generally speaking. But when you're looking at this Hidden Power Water, even with that defense and the heavy rain, it's just going to be a one-shot. It doesn't matter what they have, really, unless they're just like stupid bulky. Which, even max HP, max special defense, Primal Groudon in the rain isn't going to survive from Hidden Power Water. With the wind up, or something like that, or just no weather, it's a 2-hit KO from that super bulky one. You still have a somewhat of a chance to knock out a max special defense Groudon, but like I said, looking at that general 160 in that ballpark of special defense, you're still 60%, almost over 50% chance to one shot. But that's with Hidden Power Water. But I found what was really interesting with Charizard and the combination of solar power and the life orb. Even in the sun, like, some of his just straight up fire attacks are brutal. Like Blast Burn, which is like a last-ditch effort because you have to charge after it. Against that special Groudon, or that Groudon with 160 special defense, Blast Burn is still going to be a 75% chance to one-shot, which is pretty awesome. Even with Overheat, that's still a guaranteed 2-hit KO. And that's assuming he's got special defense bulk. You get rid of that, then Overheat's got an 87.5% chance to one-shot. And then Blast Burn is just a guaranteed one-shot. So that's something to keep in mind. I thought that was pretty interesting. Next up, we've got Charizard versus Xerneas. Just your standard max attack Xerneas, or max special attack, max speed Xerneas. Obviously, you're going to be just a hair faster if you go with... well, actually, it depends on their nature, but you are technically faster. But anyway, Overheat in the harsh sun with the solar power and the life orb, that's a one-shot. a special attack one-shot on a Xerneas, which is pretty awesome because of how specially bulky they generally speaking are. Let's see what that looks like with +2. I mean, even +2 overheat's a guaranteed 2-hit KO, and Blast Burn is, 56% chance to one-shot, which is pretty awesome. And again, that's after the Geomancy boost. I mean, granted, you got to be able to survive, do that damage, but... So even if we take away the sun, we're still doing... Blast Burn's a 2-shot. Overheat's a 2-shot. I mean... So the sun is pretty significant because of that solar power. Next up we have against Primal Kyogre, which this one is not really the matchup you want to see. You're not going to win this matchup a lot. I mean, you can technically do with a solar power or solar beam. Solar beam in the sun, if you can get it off, is going to be a 87, and that's 87.5% chance to one shot, and that's against the non special defense invested Kyogre. And just standard weather or wind or anything like that, it's a guaranteed 2-shot. But again, I mean, that's if you can get that off. So that's the likelihood of it happening is not very high, but just be aware of. I mean, so it'd be interesting to run like Charizard on a Kyogre team for the matchup against Xerneas and Primal Groudon. Next up, we'll look against Dialga. Okay, so in like a regular weather or wind, I mean, your Blast Burn is still going to be doing over 50% chance to one-shot. Let's change the Solar Beam to a Dragon Pulse. That's a 3-shot. Yeah, I mean, you don't get the stat boost from that, but, I mean, obviously, whenever you change things and you go to the sun, I mean, all of your numbers change. Any fire move is just going to deal ridiculous amounts of damage. I mean, Overheat is a one-shot. Let's change Hidden Power Water to something like Flamethrower and see what that looks like. I mean, Flamethrower against a non-invested special defense Dialga is still a one-shot in the sun. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, that's a pretty basic attack. And Dialga are generally pretty tough to handle. So let's put, just for the sake of arguments, a 252 special defense. I mean, you're still just obliterating that Dialga in the sun. In the regular weather, I mean, it's a little bit more tricky. But let's put 252 in the HP in the sun. I mean, even in a completely bulky 250 max HP, max special defense Dialga, you can still technically one-shot it with a Flamethrower. I mean, it's not a very high chance, but you can still do it, so that's pretty cool. Look up Salamence. So even against Salamence, I mean, in the sun, Dragon Pulse is going to one-shot. Blast Burn is going to one-shot. And Overheat's going to one-shot. Which, in the Blast Burn and the Overheat one-shotting is a pretty significant deal because Salamence has a resistance to fire with his Dragon typing. But the fact that you get Dragon Pulse is good. So even if we go into like the strong wind, with Dragon Pulse, we still have a shot. And then Blast Burn and Overheat are 2-hit KOs. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind with Charizard. Oh, I'll show you one more just for the sake of matchups. because Charizard gets a pretty wide move pool. But again, assuming you can ever get any of these off. I mean, you can one-shot Talonflame in the sun, or out of the sun with Ancient Power. If it's Strong Wind, obviously it loses that flying weakness, but let's look at a Ho-Oh. Just to give an example of what that's going to look like in the sun, I mean, you're going to be able to one-shot a non-invested Ho-Oh. I mean, usually they're pretty bulky in themselves. I mean, special defense, they're usually really bulky, but in the sun, I mean, Ancient Power is still a chance to one-shot. And that's if they're max special defense, which again, I don't know how often you're going to see a max special defense in a lot of things. Alright, so moving on from Charizard. Now we've got the real wild card, Mr. Mime. And this one is super interesting because Mr. Mime gets something really cool. He gets Technician, which makes all of his attacks that have a base power of 60 or less do double, or it basically effectively makes their base power double. So anything with a 60 base power is going to do 120. And he's got a decent special attack, and his speed, he lines up with like the primals and different things like that. I mean, he's got the same speed tier, just to keep in mind. But so if we were to put a max special attack Mr. Mime with the Life Orb or choice specs, let's do with the Life Orb. Against just a regular basic special defense to Groudon. I mean, obviously, if we put Hidden Power Water on it, that's the big thing that's going to affect the Groudon. When we bring it in the rain, it's guaranteed one-shot. I mean, again, it's a water attack against Groudon. It doesn't take a whole lot of investment in order to knock out Groudon with a water attack, but the Strong Wind's one-shot, Heavy Rain is one-shot, so regular weather and in the rain it's a one-shot. Again, but I said, I mean, Primal Groudon, it doesn't take much. But what makes Mr. Mime pretty interesting, let's go up against like a Mega Salamence. Like your pretty standard regular Mega Salamence. In just regular weather, or sun, or rain, with an Icy Wind and a Life Orb, you can one-shot Salamence, and that's after calculating the spread damage. I mean, if you do it just a single target, obviously it will deal even more, but even with counting the double target, you're knocking out a Salamence and an Icy Wind. That's pretty cool. You have other options dealing with Xerneas. Isn't a great matchup for Mr. Mime. You don't have a lot of options. I mean, you can, with Hidden Power Fire, I mean, you can two-shot, which, again, you don't want to do that. But, I mean, you can put Hidden Power, whatever, on Mr. Mime, and he'll get basically Hidden Power becomes 120 base damage. Let's do, like, Hidden Power Poison. I mean, that's a guaranteed two-shot on just, like, your basic Xerneas. Again, I'm not saying you should ever run Mr. Mime, especially against a Xerneas, because you're generally going to lose, but something to keep in mind. What Mr. Mime does get that's kind of interesting against like your basic Crobat and stuff, this move right here, even though it says no move, this is supposed to be Confusion. For whatever reason, the Showdown calculator doesn't have Confusion in its move pool, but Confusion does the base 50 damage, and it's a Psychic special move, so that will work with Technician. So basically, effectively, it'll be 100 base power, so it's a little stronger than what a Psychic would be. But with Confusion, you have an 81% chance to one-shot a Crobat. And again, that's with a Life Orb, and you would need to be faster than that. I mean, you don't have to be faster than the Crobat as long as you know, I mean, you're expecting a Tailwind or something like that, but you can one-shot that Crobat most of the time. And then you have against Gengar or Mega Gengar, just your standard Mega Gengar with not a lot of, or any special defense investment. You can one-shot that Gengar as well. Granted, Gengar can also mess you up, but, you know, a lot of things can mess up Mr. Mime. He does not have a lot of HP. But something to keep in mind. Also, what's interesting about Mr. Mime, he gets some really interesting moves. You can you can Egg Move him, Fake Out. He learns Wide Guard and Quick Guard, I believe, as well. So he has some really interesting moves. And then Technician pretty much leaves a lot of different things open of what you can teach him. And he can just start dealing damage, like ridiculous amounts of damage with basic, super basic attacks. But obviously, the Icy Wind one was the one I thought was the coolest aspect of that, just because you can one-shot a Salamence with an Icy Wind. Alright, and then last up, we have a Landorus. Again, this is the one, everyone knows Landorus, almost everybody uses Landorus, but this is a little bit of a twist on the regular Landorus. This is a Landorus T, but a special variant of Landorus T. Generally, whenever you see Landorus T, it is physical. Right? I mean, that's his biggest attack, or stat, is his physical attack. But his special attack really is not that far off from his physical attack. So you can make him a decent special attacker with Intimidate. So if you give him a Life Orb or something, he can start dealing like pretty awesome amounts of damage. Let's look up against that Primal Groudon. It's kind of the trend here today, but I mean, Primal Groudon is also the Pokemon you're going to see the most. So, with a max special attack, Landorus T, with the Life Orb, and a special attack boosting nature like Modest, you can use Earth Power off that Landorus, and you have a 93.8% chance to one-shot a Groudon with 160 special defense investment. Obviously, if they don't have any investment in special defense, I mean, that's a guaranteed one-shot. Also, against other Landoruses, you can run Hidden Power Ice, and you're going to one-shot those almost every single time. Against Xerneas, you can run Sludge Wave, and before he gets the Geomancy up, I mean, Sludge Wave is a 2-shot, and most of the time you'll be able to survive a Moonblast or a Dazzling Gleam. And then up against Salamence. Again, and I was just basing these off of the more common Pokemon you're going to see. But yeah, that Hidden Power Ice is going to one-shot Salamence. The only exception would be in the Strong Wind, which is still a 2-shot, which isn't bad. But yeah, this was a pretty quick video today, but I just wanted to go over some more, just, you know, messing around with the calcs and stuff. If you like these, let me know. If you want to see more, let me know. If there's any other Pokemon you want me to profile, see if I can find some interesting stuff on them, definitely let me know that. I'm already working on some other ones to see if I can figure out some fun stuff to do with the calcs. But that is it, guys, and I will see y'all next time.